serve the people. He's not here to be served, he'll say, he's come here to serve. Charles will be the 40th reigning monarch to be anointed and crowned here. And just a quick word about the remarkable treasures on display. Some of them not here yet because they'll be carried in procession, where you see the blank spaces. But look, the Abbey plate, as it's called, the treasure of Westminster Abbey, is already on display, and there'll be treasures from the crown jewels too, brought from the Tower of London. They'll be carried here in procession. The regalia that will be used during the ceremony of coronation itself, including, we've got a quick glimpse of it there, well, you may have seen, there it is, that magnificent golden eagle, the ampulla and the spoon. We'll take a better look at it later on, but there you have it, there you have it. That's full of oil. That's full of oil that's been gathered in the Middle East, in Jerusalem, and that's the oil that will be used to anoint the king. All of that coming a little later on.
Thanks, Hugh. Now, in the perfect position to catch some of those guests as they head into the Abbey is Sophie Rayworth. Let's join her there now.
Well, the guests are streaming into the Abbey now, and I'm joined by one of them who has just arrived, Tony Juniper, who is Chair of Natural England, environmentalist, and also who knows the King very well. You've authored 3 books with him, haven't you?
Yes, we worked together on 3 different books over the years. One called Harmony, which was really a pulling together of all of his ideas on lots of different subjects, including environmental questions, food security, water, the economy, education and architecture, and pulling it all together. And that for me was an incredible experience to understand the linkages that exist in his understanding of all these different questions, because sometimes it looks a bit random, doing agriculture in the morning and architecture in the afternoon. If you look at that book, you can see the threads that he's drawn between them, and it's a very compelling piece of work that I was delighted to help him with.
And you've described him, haven't you, as possibly the most significant environmentalist of our time.
Yes, and you know, you look at what he's been doing. His first environmental speech was back in 1968. This is more than five decades ago. And since then, he's visited the subject of climate change in depth. He's set up initiatives to halt deforestation. He's helped the journey towards sustainable fisheries. He's made the case for a sustainable circular economy. And it's really something that has developed in depth and impact over those many years. And he's a real expert on these subjects. He's not just picking stuff up and thinking that's a good idea. He thinks very hard and deeply about it to form his own views.
You've spent a lot of time with him. What do you think it will mean to him this day?
Well, his entire life has been devoted to public service, and this is just another big step on that huge journey. And so he will put himself into this role in the same way, with the same energy and dedication and commitment to the public good that he did as Prince of Wales.
And what about you? What does it mean to you to be standing here?
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. I was just reflecting this morning. I'm 63 years old this year, and nothing like this has occurred in this country during my entire life. So to be a part of this today is absolutely incredible. The one small regret I have is looking at these incredible processions going on along the streets, and I'll be inside, of course, so we'll miss that bit. But I'll be certainly watching the BBC on the iPlayer this evening to pick it all up.
And I think they may have some screens in there for you too.
Fantastic.
You will be able to appreciate the whole thing.
It'd be a shame to miss that.
Tony Juniper, have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Yeah, 7 p.m. tonight for all the highlights. Don't miss it. Joining me in the studio now is someone who has known the King literally all her life, his goddaughter, India Hicks. A special day for you because this is very personal. Can you describe the man that you know? Who is the King?
Well, I think what's very reassuring is from the insight that I've seen of him as a godfather, and a very considerate one, very similar to the public man. The private and the public man seem very similar.
Right.
Incredibly considerate from the moment he came to my christening, all the way through to confirmation, writing me messages every year, and never forgets birthday or Christmas. At my wedding, sent me a lovely long letter. Just someone who takes the time and really thinks about what he's giving. I've had the most remarkable gifts all my life from him. Once a beautiful bracelet with an I and an H entwined that he had designed, a clock for my christening with the date engraved onto it. brilliantly every year as a child, and slightly mysteriously when you're 8, you get a gravy dish or a teacup.
What?
A gravy dish teacup. Of course, now as an adult, I have a complete
wow.
set of fine china dining. And can you imagine? I mean, most of the presents you're given as a godchild, or you give to a godchild, or a piece of plastic that's totally immaterial later. Now I have a very significant thing. So it just shows that the man then was thinking in the most forward, progressive way. And I work a lot for the Prince's Trust, and I've worked very closely with the Trust now for 2 years for the Women Supporting Women's Side. And we're always realising that the foundations of that are about inclusivity, diversity and equality. And I think those founding themes are what we're going to see carry on through into this reign. So it's a great, exciting time.
That's fascinating that you had somebody as a godfather who took the time to write the long letters and design the jewellery. How much time did you actually get to spend with him? Because people that work with him will always say to me, well, he's a very, very busy man. I've worked for all sorts of people. I've worked very hard. I've never worked harder than I work for the then Prince of Wales, now King. Did you have any sort of one-to-one time with him, or much one-to-one time?
Growing up,
yes.
We were very lucky to, and very privileged to be able to have a holiday in the Bahamas, where I now live. The then Prince of Wales would come. My aunt was his godmother, and so he would come and stay with the family quite often. So we would have holidays together, and there's one mortifying memory I have, very young. I must have been about 7 or 8. We went out sailing on a tiny, tiny little sunfish boat, just me and him, and we got quite far out in this beautiful lagoon, and the rudder broke.
Right.
And Prince Charles had to get out, and he had to bravely trample back across sea urchins and coral to take us back to the safety of shore. And I sat there frozen as a terrified child, not knowing, is it better that I get out and help, or should I sit inside and be good and quiet? Awful, mortifying.
And was he fun? Was he fun as a godparent? Because there are godparents who muck in. I mean, he had to muck in there. Or there are godparents who, basically it's birthdays and Christmas.
Well, he was certainly patient. I found a photograph recently in a forgotten album of me placing annoying little plastic animals all over his shoulders. And in my little childish mind, this went on for hours and hours. And he patiently sat there and let me do it.
That speaks of a very, very patient person. What sort of, I of course, you're incredibly fond of him, and you are going to be, I'm sure, very nice when I ask this question, but I really want you to think, what sort of king will he be? How do you think he will change things? Because, of course, today is the turning of a page of history. This is really the moment, I suppose, when the public unites with its monarch if it chooses to do so. What sort of king do you think he'll be?
I think that's very astute, and I think it's quite right. It is a turning point today, and I think that what we've seen since the death of our Queen is that King Charles has not put a step wrong. Everything has been smooth, and I think that that's what we're going to see going on. Of course, what we're seeing today is so different to that 1953 coronation. My mother was there. My mother was there in 1937.
Wow.
She was there at Buckingham Palace for the King's coronation, and now for the Queen's, and what she'll be watching with great interest today's unfolding of the next bit of history. But my mother always says that in that 1953 moment when the Queen was there in the Abbey, my mother felt that she seemed so alone, very young. Obviously, it was a service mixed with romance and tragedy. No one had imagined that the King was going to die so young. Queen never thought she would inherit the throne so young. What we're seeing today is so different. We have a very confident, strong, extraordinary, remarkable man with a very strong wife beside him in their 70s. So it's completely, he's chosen a very different date. He was not going to go for the same date as his mother. So I think we're seeing everything unfolding very differently. And if we think about it, I'm sure many guests said the same thing. We have a king who was saying and doing things that we were confused about all those years ago. And now, of course, how prescient he is, and we should take comfort from that here we have a man who understands about the changes and the climate that we're in today.
For now, India Hicks, thank you very much. You look so elegant and magnificent. You're going to be joining us later to talk about all the elegant and magnificent outfits that we hope we will witness today, which of course is part of the whole joy of the thing. But for now, thank you very much indeed. The King once said, "I feel more than anything, it's my duty to worry about everyone and their lives in this country, to try to find a way of improving things, if I possibly can." Well, the Prince's Trust, as we were hearing, is one of the most significant ways that he's gone about doing that. We spoke to 2 of its ambassadors who've experienced and witnessed the impact of the King's charity.
Congratulations
Prince's Trust was set
to
up
King
in
Charles.
1976.
This is the prelude video.
He had just
My name's
come out
Her
of the Royal
Excellency
Navy, and
Doreen
with his
Zohaira
severance
Musa
pay,
Yusuf.
he set the Prince's
I'm
Trust
so
up
glad that this is happening in our time.
over $1 million.